What's up? We're talking American Gods Season 3, Episode 3. My name is Kari Lane. I'm joined by my awesome co-host. This way, we got Flobo in the
Man, I'm
house.
always backwards with the pointing, but I hope
It's
this is
like a
right.
mirror, so it's so like, hold on, where am I?
Yeah, so glad to be here. Talking about American Gods. Dare I say my favorite episode of the season so far? Things were happening left and right.
I was just going to ask, so now we're on to Episode 3. How are you feeling now? Because it was a bit of a slow start.
Oh
But what are
yeah,
you thinking now?
slow start was an understatement, Gary. Let's be
Girl,
honest. But we at least got an A plot, a B plot, and a C plot, and that was it kept on going, kept on juggling. Sometimes in the same scene, we saw things go back and forth. So it was kind of rewarding us for tuning in this season after having those slow 2 episodes. But now we're seeing more stakes than this beyond the war between the old gods and new gods. Thank the Lord, or lords, that's
Thank
happening.
you, gods.
Yeah, thank you, gods. Because I last week I was a little frustrated. I was like, you know what's this season going to be about? But now I have all the tendrils I need.
Yeah, it definitely had a lot more going on. It was definitely more interesting and some humor. We get our flashback in the past, episode 3, Ashes and Demons. We get 1765, West Pennsylvania, the rituals of the ancients. And so we get to see essentially a early Demeter, which was cool because we meet her later, which I really did love.
Yeah.
So speaking of that relationship, we get Wednesday and Cordelia. Okay, not only is he essentially homophobic, he is definitely sexist, which I mean, we knew that, but it's like,
Yeah. Yeah.
man, give your Cordelia some dues. She is working her butt off for you, and you are ungrateful.
She did the worst thing that I hate doing is getting gas night before a road trip. I'm always like, I'll do it tomorrow. But she did it herself. And yeah, totally thankless. Yeah. So remember last week I wasn't sure even though if fiance was a code name, if there was a sexual element. I'm
I
thinking
don't
now
think so.
more. Yeah, now I'm pretty much sure it's definitely like an arrangement as far as you help me to
Yes.
help you. Yeah.
Something that we saw as like a ooh and a preview for next time, so we know there's going to be something with it. But I really thought it was weird that moment where the 4 band members died, that there's a homicide, and that was the band that he was interacting with, and I'm like, what? So that was cool
Yeah.
to call back from a previous episode. I really want to know where that's going because that
Oh,
was like,
absolutely. To me, it was kind of like cheap that he was like, I'll deal with that later. Basically, look at the camera, be like, I'll deal with that episode 7. I promise.
yes.
But
We'll
it
be
is-
back. Tune in for next week.
exactly. Wink. But one of the cool things that we always asked about the old gods was, if these people don't know this exists, how are they worshiping? And so we saw that early in the season with the giant rock concert. So I can imagine with so many Spotify streams, that's how Wednesday gets his energy,
Sure.
I guess, day to day and day out. So of course there's going to be some retribution. Hopefully we get that giant like God of Thunder scene like we did in season 1 at that Easter episode, my favorite episode of the show. But yeah, it was kind of interesting. They plot that seed for our later payoff.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see where that goes on. And yeah, poor Cordelia doing everything she can. And even like in the car.
Kara, do you know how to work a steamer? Because I don't. I have never.
Yes. There, well, from working on short films and like indie films, they have steamers on set. Also with my clothes, I never really used to care about ironing clothes, but now I'm like, okay, I don't like my t-shirts to be totally, I don't fold them all so amazing, so they look very wrinkly when I grab
I'm
them.
the worst at folding. It's
Yeah.
cool.
So I'm like, I will totally be okay ironing. I don't care. But certain things I will try to steam it because especially if it's like a fabric, you can't like iron it. So I feel it on her. It's actually really easy. You're just like literally like me, going over it.
Props, Cordelia.
Yeah. Yes, but it takes time. That's what it is.
Yeah.
So what did you think about Demeter hanging out at essentially a old folks home / psych ward? Because it kind of seemed to be a hybrid of both ish.
Yeah.
For me, it kind of really makes sense of it is, as she says later, it is a place for her to truly be herself. And I mean, I feel she would pick up on the sarcasm of the staff going, sure, you're a goddess. And that would just rub you the wrong way. But she said more the other patients or the people there like, yes, you are.
I'm glad you brought this up because this is actually one of the arguments that Demeter and Wednesday had where I saw both sides. If I truly believe that I am a goddess, even though you may be in a weird kind of like, I don't know, greenhouse situation, the
Mm-hmm.
fact that people are actually acknowledging us that is kind of helpful. It's the methadone, if you will. But then when Wednesday goes, yeah, but if you said you were a lizard king, they'll totally call you that too. I go, yeah, he's right. This is definitely like a fantasy simulation, and I really think deep down that she wants to go, but she wants to make sure she's not putting herself in a weaker state. She's not. She'd rather have the fake, false kind of like
And
appreciation
it's
than to go
safe
outside and have
though.
nothing. So
It's safe. Like there's, it's shelter and food and protection. It's not
yeah,
like the unpredictable world outside. So yeah, no,
right.
100%. I get both sides. One thing actually, I just saw my notes here. Do you think Cordelia fully understands that Wednesday is a god? Because he said something about the year, and then she's like, "Oh, I thought you meant this year," and changed it. And how she's kind of like, "Yeah, sure, you're gods." And then I was like, "Oh, does she not know? Because is she like Shadow? Like, yeah, yeah, sure, you're a god." I don't think she knows, or at least
Oh,
hasn't like fully had it sunk in.
that date exchange is open to interpretation. I
Mm,
I interpreted it as her just saying, "Look, man, I make sure you didn't make an ass of yourself or make a mistake on this forgery by getting the year wrong." But you're right; it could go either way, and it hasn't been determined either way. It would be surprising if Cordelia was like, "Oh my gosh, I didn't realize that," because she's driven as far as she could with Betty. There's got to be some kind of inkling, no?
you would think, but it might be one of those people deal with a lot and just go, yeah, whatever, and like shrug it off.
That's
So
me. Yeah.
we'll see. I'm really curious if we'll get something later about that. So we had pretty much, yeah, she doesn't want to leave and be herself, wants to be herself, and she comments how Wednesday is old and desperate, but what is he desperate for? I was like, ooh, girl. She's like, I'm all, you called it. There is something. What is he like? I think some of the older gods too, they just want to survive. So the extra effort that he's doing, they're just like, ugh,
Yeah.
why?
Bro. It's one of those things that it's the audience surrogate question of the year. Look, we all seen these gods, and I guess we spent more time with the old gods, so you want to see them win against the new
Mm-hmm.
gods. But what are they fighting for? Do we
Yeah,
want to go back to the days of doing blood sacrifices for Ofnir? I'm not so sure. So yeah,
yeah,
I'm glad someone took Wednesday to task and be like, "What are you doing this for?"
yeah. And I felt she was delightful. I really liked the slap at the initial, like, no. And also calling him out on his BS, like, okay, are you actually here? I'll go with you if you tell me the truth. Are you actually here for me or for my money?
Yeah, no one wants to see
You can be there
Wednesday
from both.
ever. Nobody wants. No one's ever like Wednesday except for Tyr. Everyone is
Um,
like,
yeah.
you know, it's just so bad to see.
Here's the
But
only
yeah,
one who's like, what's up, buddy? But everybody else is like,
hey,
what do you want?
yeah.
Yeah.
What do you want?
They've
No, but you're
learned.
absolutely right. I think it's cool that Demeter is like, even though she's in a mental state and she's diminished, isn't diminished enough to be like, I
Yeah.
smell BS.
Also, I loved her crafts activity that she was doing with the other people. And that straw transformation at the beginning of the episode, I had a jaw drop like, oh, that looks so cool. Like the woman's making the offering and it's the straw doll and it takes shape and grows and becomes this beautiful woman. I was like, that was mwah. Like the special effects and how they visualize that just looks so stunning. What did you think of that transformation?
2 weeks in a row and I'm creeped out as hell. It was a straw doll, but it was like, it was weird, it was twisty. It was like, oh, what's going to happen?
Yeah.
Could have been a horror thing because it was a book of spells. Didn't expect that to be the good answer to the famine, but I was like, if she gets herself killed, I'd be like, bro, that's what you get for using that creepy book. But
Well,
I
it
was on
had
my edge
like
of my
the
seat.
no face, and then it was like the little bit of a lady's face, and then kept going. To my yeah, same at the beginning. I'm like, this is going a different. Where is this going? I was concerned
Mommy,
for her. Yeah,
right?
yeah. But they yeah, effects so good.
Oh, agreed. Yeah.
I was gonna say, speaking of effects, we get a lot of effects with Dead Wife, Laura Moon at the elevator, and Purgatory. And I like that we had characters specifically say we're in Purgatory because it is one of those like, but where are we?
Right.
What did you think of that whole chunk with Laura in Purgatory?
So it's a weird thing for me because, well, for I was under the impression that my parents are Protestant, that purgatory is kind of like a Catholic thing, right? But I never had interpreted it as this hurtling subway car to the sky with so many straps to hang off of. Different races or religions are all together, just be like, that was terrifying, but not as terrifying as the struggle. I would ride Purgatory to ride if I had the chance. But you know what? I'm glad we saw a little bit more of Laura. We'll get to her and her interpretation of things a little later. But she was kind of insufferable, but I think I would be too if I was hurtling through time and space up to a ring in the sky.
Well, it's definitely it's peculiar in the way of, I guess that is so many people because they're all going to purgatory, because we've already seen other people die and get essentially a one-on-one with whatever god / religion they care about. So it's kind of like, well, why are these people all together? But it's because they're going through purgatory or going to purgatory. Kind of depends on where you're going.
Yeah.
Because
that's fair, because she's been a zombie for like what, a year and a half.
Right? How did you like her thing was pretty much you need to acknowledge reality.
Okay, so it's one of those things that if I were in Laura's place, I would knock her for doing what she did. You know, I've seen my life. I cringe when I see my old YouTube videos, let alone things I'm actually a part of. But watching it as a fan, I'm like, look, lady, they're trying to tell you something. Yeah. Just chill out. What is wrong with you?
Like, sit down, shut up.
Yeah, like that's exactly what they were saying. Sit down and shut up. But I thought it was a cool way of saying of how many times things happen in our lives and we get to maybe blame ourselves or we say something I could have done, but then having someone tell you it's not your fault. It was a cool way that it was on Laura's decision to see the skewed truth and then get seen the truth.
Yes. Oh, yeah, no, I thought the purgatory scene was such a cool, or scenes, the section was really cool of a waiting room place. And I'm going to link it down below. I made a short film called Pending, and I'm like, this looks really familiar. And I shared it with Flobo, and I was like, this looks really familiar.
I was like, those themes. They were like, on YouTube, like,
yeah. So I'll leave a comment down below. So go check out that short film, everyone.
We expect payment of 2 special guests, at least. In the next couple of episodes.
Yeah. But yeah, just a visual idea of a waiting room, which has been done in other mediums, but the way this one is very particular to mine of like, it's a line, it's different people from different eras, different races, religions, and everything. So that was like really cool to see it as like almost like a train station. Like they're all kind of waiting. There's like the main desk and everything. Yeah. And of course, Laura's like, get me the fuck out of here. And the crazy hallway. And I like that it doesn't really respond to her because she cheated. And it could have just done anything, but I like that it was like, no. And also the door that eventually turned into what hers had and it changed the numbers is all the bug spray, like the pesticide that she used to kill herself. So I thought that was such a great, like, it felt like a never-ending hell purgatory, I mean, we'll go both on that one. If it's just like, it just keeps looping. And she's like, how do I get out of here?
Did I say she got off easy? Like
a little bit.
If I was ready to go to purgatory and someone just jacks my ticket, all they get is the bug spray like visualization is messed up. Yeah. Now that person's stuck waiting for even longer.
Yes. I agree, because she got very, very easy and just has like the theater room. I did like both of those characters. It was so cute and they were funny, and I liked her getting to see her life and learning. I was like, where is that? Yeah.
I was tripped out the fact that it was a VHS tape and it was filmed at the same time. Like, which one is it?
Yeah. Both. They exist simultaneously in this world. But I like that she went into the world too. But and as you said, it's such a good example of how we see our lives one way, but that's because it's our viewpoint. That's not an objective viewpoint. It's not someone else's viewpoint. So maybe you saw it not as it is. And pointing out why are you still so angry? Because that's true. Like, this girl has not let go of anger the entire time that we've known her. She's always been upset. And it is like, what are, and I don't think she could pinpoint it per se herself. Yeah. But I love that moment of like, you're not the architect of all of your fuck ups in your life. And you're not responsible for that. You're like, okay, good life lesson there.
And a little bit of sort of remorse for Shadow. A little quick little, I'm sorry.
I was like, oh, hey. No. Yeah, and like she felt bad about him and how she messed that up. So I do like that she maybe accepted reality a little bit, and she's not I mean, and I agree. Similar to our conversation with Demeter of like seeing both sides, I see both sides of this of like one feeling like you are not responsible for your life because all these bad things happen to you, but then also that negates the idea of you should also be able to try to overcome those or not be stuck on that because
Yeah.
this happened to you. So it's like
It's one of those
both.
things, yeah, like your trials and tribulation forge you the person who you are, but you can't dwell on
Mm-hmm.
them, even though they make you who you are. Like exactly what you're saying, and I think this is a perfect example of this. I mean, I was with Laura's interpretation of what happened until I was like, wait, she just said she wanted to watch cartoons, and Dad went anyway. Okay, that's
Mm-hmm.
weird, And then seeing what really happened, I go, oh, I get it. It was totally a kept my style, kid. I'm going down the
Yeah.
hall, so
No,
yeah.
so it's sad that, and then also as a young or even adult, like if you don't understand something that's going on, obviously you wouldn't remember it correctly because you didn't know what was going on. So
Yeah,
it's like, of course you'd interpret it incorrectly.
I blame
So I'm
myself for things
really
all the
curious,
time.
right? You're just like, wait, I didn't understand that. Or you get to hear the other side and then you're like, oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
One time I bumped into somebody and for years I was like, I can't believe I stepped in their shoes and I called him up like, hey, let's go out and get something to eat, and I told him the story and he goes, I don't remember this. And I was like, really? My entire life I've been sitting there going, you know.
Or that,
Uh,
yeah, it's something that's monumentally important to you, and then, or vice versa, it's huge to them, and then you're like, I don't. Like I had a conversation the other day of like a family trip something, and someone pointed out, yeah, they had this big fight, and I'm like, they did? This happened?
where was
Sorry,
I?
that was a loud there. It's like, wait, what? And then I'm like, do we even remember what? I'm like, I don't even remember, and I'm like, that's not part of my memory of it, but I bet I didn't ask them of like, so
Right. Here's where I'm
how's that?
going right now. What are
Yeah,
you guys on? Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Um, then we have that's pretty much everything with Laura. I'm really curious to see where we're gonna go with her next. Like what is next for her? Also, preview for next time. I think we saw Mad Sweeney, so I'm like, ooh, maybe something. We'll
Yeah.
see.
I mean, it
Um,
has to be now. It's been, what, 3 episodes since
yeah,
we've seen them? So I hope something happens next week.
right.
I
Uh,
know.
we
That boy.
also have. Sorry, what?
Take the bad wife, dead wife.
Yes, dead wife. We have Shadow, and also I think it was with Laura scenes and Shadow scene. Huge love of the crossfades / match on action shots where it's somebody happening in this scene and then it kind of continues into the next scene is different. I'm
Yeah.
like, ah, it's so
Yeah, the search
good.
party, the Thunderbird like feathers. Yeah, because again, we've seen it all season. It's in the opening sequence. There's something going on with
Mm-hmm.
crows and Thunderbirds and what that means. But
Yes,
yeah, we got a weekly dose with that search party.
yes. I think Odin's are ravens though.
True, they are ravens,
But
but
yeah,
I figure like the
but
whole
yes, the
avian thing.
Thunderbird. We still
Yeah,
have more
yeah,
there. Yes,
yeah.
yes. And then yeah, sorry, it's also the crossfades with Wednesday's stuff that's going on. So that was just such cool, like film little, cherry on top. Like they don't have to do that, but it just looks
Oh yeah,
cool.
yeah.
Yeah. So we have Anne Marie, bless her heart, just trying to be so helpful, and I'm
Is
just
she
like,
though?
oh,
Is
I
she?
am very suspicious of her. I'm glad you said that. Me too. I'm like, she's being a little too nice, too helpful, and taking over Chad. Also, I think I didn't have his name down last time as much. I was just like, yeah, the sheriff, and I'm like, he is a Chad a little bit. Um,
Little
what
bit,
did
Chad.
you think of that apology to Shadow? Where I'm like, all right, I get that it's an awkward topic, but if you really felt like you meant no harm, you wouldn't feel that awkward to apologize.
That is very deep. What I was going to say, I enjoyed it for two reasons, and one, Shadow let him basically hung himself out to dry because he could have jumped in, but he was
He's
like,
like, hmm? Yeah.
continue. And then when he said Lakeside's not like this, he goes, "Was Lakeside still in America?" And he was like, "Oh snap!" I was like, "You get him, Shadow." Because you can't take that back. You can't take it back of going to a town that was so warm the day before, and I'm going to get some pasties, and everyone's looking like I killed somebody. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, no, 100%. I'm glad he called him out on it indirectly because yeah, if you really meant nothing, you would just be like, "Oh my gosh, that was such a weird mistake. My bad. I am sorry. I hope you understand that's my job." Boom. Not this.
Yeah.
Well, because like I'm like white and you're like black and oh my gosh, this is super awkward and you're just like, wow.
Yeah.
I was sitting there just like Shadow going, mm-hmm.
Go ahead. Continue.
Continue. Yeah.
What did you do wrong?
Please tell me. What was it? Yes.
Yeah. And I
Good
think a
job.
lesser show, if it was on like broadcast TV, would have cut that. It'd have been like,
No,
oh,
it
don't
was
worry
so
about it. It was just like
timely.
drawn out just to be like,
Yeah.
mm-hmm.
And super timely. I love that of this good point of like, I hope you're aware, sir, that you are a white cop talking to a black man and you thought he was the murderer just because he's from out of town.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Sure,
That's the only reason.
Yeah.
Sure.
We're the other black people in this town.
Yeah. And Marjorie, I think you had mentioned her name before.
Marguerite.
So that's our Marguerite.
Yeah.
Marjorie. I think was that I felt the sheriff was calling her Marjorie, like as
okay.
pet name of Marguerite. That's what I thought I heard.
But it could be a mispronunciation, yeah. On his
well, no, it might be Margaret, but they might be calling Marjorie short. I don't know.
Gotcha.
That's a good question.
What
did you hear? Leave comments.
I heard Marguerite, but if the chat hears something
Marguerite.
else.
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
Have you noticed that they said that there was multiple burglaries? You know, I'm like, this is really suspicious that there's been multiple burglaries in this small town.
Yeah.
That feels weird. Okay, we learned that Leon is her son and he's alive, but she referred to him as my youngest.
Right.
If you had one child, you wouldn't say my youngest.
Absolutely.
So I still think her other child died or went missing. Now that she was so concerned about someone going missing, I'm wondering if her other child went missing.
I think exactly what happened. It is interesting how Leon kind of appeared, and it makes you wonder if it was like a writer's choice to say, let me use that so I can say my youngest and what have you, or this character himself and Leon will be important to the story. But yeah, the fact he came in and was like, I thought you hated this guy. It was like he was hanging out the entire time. We never saw you before, Leon, but you're hanging out like we were a main character.
Yeah. Well, and then also we see him. I feel there's going to be more with Shadow and the newspapers from town, and it had that. There was a little bit as he was starting to fall asleep about a missing boy. I think so. I feel that ties into her son. So hopefully we'll learn more, and maybe that ties into what's going on. And yeah, that's a good question. Is the girl missing? Is Allison missing? Part of the gods and supernatural stuff going on, or is it just a regular standard human psycho person? You know, it's like we'll see.
Well, I want to ask a question, Kara. Do you think she's dead because of what the paper said? The newspaper Shadow tried touching.
Well, she's been. If it's a human, yes. If a regular human got her, yes. If it is one of the gods, I think they might be keeping her alive because they saw Shadow somehow. No, Shadow interacted with her. Is my theory. What about you?
I like it. No, I think I was going to write her off as being passed away until Shadow tried touching the paper and it changed to saying bloody blanket, and I was like,
bloody scarf.
Sorry, bloody scarf. Yeah.
Found.
There's no blankets out in the wintertime. Yes, bloody scarf. But when I saw that, I was like, why would it change to say that if she's not dead, right?
Yes, so, it was super weird and suspicious, and I was like, I was so glad he tried it too. I was like, oh, Shadow, you need to test out your powers, and he just needed to give it a little bit more time.
I mean, there's no instruction manual, so poor guy.
Yeah, but it's like, you know, you did something and you're like, it didn't work, done. And you're like, no, dude, like, give it a minute. Breathe.
But so like me.
No, I'm too on. Turn the computer on, and I'm like, it's not turning on. Should I turn it on and off again? I think for him, now we're seeing a continuation that his power is something like tapping into the energy around him and the world. Actually, I hadn't thought of it before just now. If anybody watches his Dark Materials, he's essentially tapping into the dust. It's essentially tapping into the particles, the matter that is around us, and it speaks. And so it's speaking to him this way. And it's kind of a similar idea, because it's like, who is he talking to? Like, who is responding in that? Because if it is essentially like the universe or like energy around him, that makes sense. Because otherwise you're like, well, who's replying?
Right. It's a Ouija board. No one knows.
Yes. And then you don't know who's replying. Don't do it. Yes. Then at that time leads us to our other big character point was he has his dream, has the vision, and Bilquis calls out to him, which was cool because it was like, oh, in that fridge. I was curious. I was like, he wanted to go.
Yeah. Hey
Go check
man,
out the ladies.
it was a whole
Yeah.
punk group in there. Why not?
Yeah.
It's a
Um,
concert just for me.
yeah. Something I was thinking about, and I wonder if anybody else watching has this happened, touched upon, or have you thought about? So he's interesting because we have the gods who are generally related to a very particular area, like they are related to where they are from, where they originated from. But Shadow is half made from a Norse god and his mom, and I'm like, so is he connected to African gods? And
Right.
slash, are they aware of him? Because we see in this vision of the like grocery store, it's all these African magazines and women. That's a good point. That's women, but I don't know if that's Bilquis. Like this time it was.
Yeah.
But what are your thoughts on that? Of like his identity, essentially.
Well, again, I have not read the book, so I'm not sure this is answered in said book. But that's something I felt like there were little nuggets of that because much like how we have people of different races here in this country, there was that their concepts of biracialism or one drop rule or colorism that you are black no matter how much black is within you, if that makes sense. I'm sorry if I'm being crass. So I kind of assume there will be some sort of either an African American or an American god derived from African spirits, which is why I saw like what made sense that Nancy was part of the story in last season, even though for whatever reason, I'm not gonna get into it, why Nancy's not here in this season. So I thought it was interesting that we saw like the Jets and the Ebony magazines and the Nigerian travel magazines all calling for Shadow using an African goddess in Bilquis, Queen Sheba. I
Mm-hmm.
think there's something there, but I'm not sure what the interpretation of Shadow's mom was going to is even going to manifest at all in the modern seasons.
Yeah, I'm curious if they'll get into it more because he and Bilquis had a connection. And I don't know if that's just because of who they are as individuals or because of like their ancestry of like where they're from, essentially. I'd be curious to see where we go with that. Speaking of Bilquis, we have her crying and she's not doing well. I still think it is like she's been poisoned by that toxic guy. There is a cell phone and all these messages, which goes back to that idea that the people who came to see her probably settled all their life stuff because she gets these messages like, Grandpa, where are you? And like a spouse and then somebody else. And I think
Yeah.
that was also bothering her.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. Last week I was like, "What's her deal?" You know, but yeah, what is it to eat with Bilquis? But yeah, this definitely was a different kind of sacrifice that we're seeing a fallout. Now, I'm sure there's not many people that Bilquis would have cried over in any of the circumstances, but this was definitely like a sacrifice that was used as a weapon, not so much of
Mm-hmm.
receiving an offering, and that's something that she has to work with. But of course, the knock on the door and the wire cutters said
Who?
otherwise.
That was intense. I was just like, who is breaking into her place? I just thought that was like crazy. We find one side note pivot on that. So we find what's going on is Shadow calling Wednesday, finding out where Bilquis is, and wanting help. And Wednesday was so excited that Shadow called him. It's just like, give me information. Okay, bye.
Yeah. See, that's why you shouldn't have kids, man. Sometimes they may not like you.
Right? He said that too. He's like a thorn. Nothing hurts more than a child scorned, something like disrespectful child, serpent's bite. Yeah, all that.
He'll
Uh,
get over it.
yeah. And then Shadow is able to get to Bilquis and finds a very wounded, something wrong, glitchy with Technical Boy. I think I want to say he didn't do it. Who did it though is such a big question because I don't think any of the old gods or new gods want to hurt her. So I'm curious if it is somebody connected to the guy who was a problem for her, or if it's somebody else we haven't even considered yet. Who do you think it is?
So going into season 3, I would say, yeah, that what happened to Bilquis, well, allegedly, because the forced entry and all that,
Yeah.
is not the MO of anybody. I mean, it does seem weird. It's kind of interesting that Tentacle Boy will come back and feel any kind of remorse if he was guilty, which I'm not saying he is. But can I say this? We don't know to the extent of this new Ms. World. I mean, she seems a lot more vicious. She's a lot more violent as far as episode 1. I don't think she's been ruled out. I would say with you, Karen, there's many people that wouldn't do it, but I don't think Ms. World has been ruled out.
I don't really, because I kind of thought like they want to bring her onto their team that they wouldn't, nobody from the New Gods group would want to hurt her. But the question is, did they hurt her or just kidnap her? But
Kidnap.
then,
I was a
Yeah.
kidnapped because Miss World was like, you're taking too long, technical boy. What are you doing?
That's a good point. Like maybe she was like, "You're taking too long." But then who would have gotten in the fight with Technical Boy that he's injured? Because we saw that weapon, which is a really cool Peacock fan weapon.
Yeah,
Uh,
fabulous.
yeah, it's like and like
Yeah.
and I like that it said glitching on the subtitles, and so I wonder if like he got hit in the temple and it's just messing with him. So I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, so many
Um,
questions there for sure.
I, he's kidnapped other people before and has a history of this, but I don't think he's been one for, and he has been one for violence, but not necessarily himself.
Right,
Like he's had the like faceless minions do it.
right.
So I'm curious how he got involved that he's bleeding, you know.
And
So
having a bad day on top of that.
yes. It's like oh,
Hopefully
but not
it's.
really.
I
Yeah.
know everything is gets kind of like pushed aside, and it's like a Russian roulette or a 3-card Monty of storylines. But I really hope this one gets answered next week. I really do.
Oh, I hope so too. Because it's like, hey, let's get answers for this one because there's so many questions on it. But it's like, what's going on? Yes. Was there anything else in the episode we didn't touch upon that stood out to you, or what happened?
I, the one note that I'm not sure was going to pay off, or just kind of for this purpose, was Larry Hutchinson, the conservator of the mental health hospital. How he basically is representing
Oh,
half of the patients, and I wonder if he's going to come back to play at any point in time, or it's kind of like a one time kind of obstacle for this episode. That's the one thing I was like, not so sure about.
yeah, that is an interesting point because could he come back? And I like that Wednesday was suspicious of him, that this guy owns stuff and takes care of people. But I'm like, are there other gods there?
Mm-hmm.
You know, are
Yeah.
there some other aging ones that like? Also, if you are a god and you lost touch, really even of who you are, or a extra identity, and then that's where you would end up.
Right. Right.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Good questions. We don't know. Leave your thoughts down below and let us know.
Oh, here's a
Got all
question
kinds of
if you're
rhymes there.
watching this in the chat. Are those disposable cameras actually get developed film? I don't think so. I think they're going to be intercepted. But let me know what you guys think. Hit drop
Ah.
below.
Oh, we went past it, and I missed my pun of we get to see Demeter in her heyday.
I don't get it.
Demeter at the beginning, it's the little thing.
Oh, the hay! Oh, I am slow. Sorry, I went to school in Brooklyn. I apologize.
No,
Give it up, Gary.
we're way past that moment, but I had thought about it ahead of time. I'm like, yeah, we see Demeter in her heyday.
That makes sense. And I was like, "Durr, what do you mean?"
Because she's like the goddess of the crops. I mean, she's not literally hay, but you know, like the
Oh
little.
man.
It looks more like it's corn husks because
Yeah.
it's in a cornfield. But still, I was like,
I just had myself a square moment. I apologize.
that's right. Do I get a round of applause?
Yes, you do. Give her a hand.
Is that right? A seal of approval.
Right.
Summer camp. I was like, what were the other ones? Yeah, those are a couple. Anyway, well, I think that covers it on the episode. Any other final thoughts?
I am on board 100%. The first two episodes,
Yeah.
especially episode 1, I was like, here we go with the war again. But now
Yeah.
we have enough mysteries to keep me interested. Can't see what episode 4 is all about. Can't wait to see.
Agreed. Yes. Alrighty. Where can people find you? There we go. Where can people find you online?
Oh, yeah. You can follow me at Flobo Boyce on Twitter and Instagram, at Flopito on Instagram, flopito.com. That's FLOBITO.com. And if you want to see all the shows that I'm hosting, newamsterdam.com, KNEW, Amsterdam.com.
Nice. Yay. And y'all can find me here. There we go. It's over here. Again, as we said, it's like a mirror thing. So
Yeah, it's a mirror thing.
Yay! Oh, there it is. Yes. On Kari Lane and Twitter and Instagram. Just finished up covering an episode of Sword Art Online. Had voice actor guests, so go check that out also on this channel. Make sure to give the video thumbs up and subscribe. Also on Instagram, I'm going to be doing an unboxing, so go check that out. Going to be eating some Japanese candy and snacks. Yay! Go check that out. Yay. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for watching. Leave your comments down below what you thought of the episode and anything that stood out to you. And we'll talk again next week. Thank you, Flobo, for joining me. It was super fun.
Thanks for the invite.
Yes. All right, everybody. We'll see you next time. Bye.